Today we're talking about common LARP weapons. Right, so in American LARPs, one of the most common weapons is the boffer sword. Now this boffer sword is of probably the simplest construction. It's just a 1/2-inch PVC pipe with a pool noodle over the top of it, and I also added some fancy details like personalized hand grip and some runes along here. But overall it is a pretty lousy weapon. It doesn't have the speed or oomph as a lot of the other boffer weapons. However, it is super easy to construct, and this guy's an axe. Now you probably see them a lot bigger, but it is a shorter weapon, good for getting lots of quick blows in, and it's pretty easy to toss and catch. Here is the classic boffer sword. It is fat, slower than latex swords, much better than the old boffer. This one's a pretty good medium for swords because it's not too hard to make, doesn't take too much time. It's decent on the battlefield. I put a nice leather grip on mine. Overall, pretty good sword. It's probably what we all started out with. Here's another boffer sword. It was constructed in an orc Lord of the Rings fashion. This one's a little bit longer so you can get more reach on it. It's pretty much the same as the other sword except for it's longer and a little bit better built. And all those boffer swords had PVC cores 1/2-inch, but now let's get on to fiberglass. Fiberglass cores allow you to make your weapons much smaller because the core is smaller. And because they are smaller, they're a lot quicker to get around your enemy. And I found that this thing is super effective. It's long and it's really quick, and I can pretty much take anyone on with it. One of the problems you may run into with this is if your LARP has a foam thickness requirement, then you might not be able to fulfill that. But yes, fiberglass is a much better option when building your boffer weapons. Right, so we've covered swords and axes. Let's go on to polearm weapons. Now what's great with the polearm weapon is if you're with a group of your buddies and you're attacking the enemy and it's a group of them as well, you can sort of sit back with this guy and just poke people and help your team out that way. Polearms are great in massed combat, but not so good in single combat. Now what I mean by mass combat is when there's a group of your guys versus a group of the enemy and you're all fighting. Single combat is pretty self-explanatory. Polearms, however, can be defeated very easily by a shield. Now when you're trying to stab the guy, you're trying to stab him, but he has a shield. And so when you stab at him, he can just block with his shield and then rush in with his sword and kill you. This is a boffer constructed spear, but I think it's just as good as any latex spear. Because with a spear, you need it to be fairly sturdy, and in all honesty, it doesn't have to be super light, because if it's super light, then it'll get hit out of the way super easy by your opponent and then it'll kill you. Don't get killed. Now, in addition to swords, axes, and polearm weapons, there are also ranged weapons. I would arguably say bows are the best, but crossbows are good. There's also thrown weapons, but with thrown weapons, getting into bigger thrown weapons, it's sort of cumbersome, and at least in the events I play in, they only do 1 damage, just like everything else. And then of course you have the new weapon, which is a sock wrapped in duct tape, which represents a rock. If you guys like this video or the surrounding background, then don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. What weapons do you guys like or use? What advantages do you see between latex and boffer weapons? I'm the Lord of Avignon, and until next time.